Hey guys, what's up? It's Thursday night, 8 o'clock. You know what that means. Chappie's Fantasy Chat. It's good to be here tonight, guys. I just gotta give you a little glimpse into the life of Chappie. Um, it's 10 till, and we have three dogs. So sitting here and my wife, texts me, she's like, "Did you take the dogs out?" I usually try and time it because I got another show at 10 o'clock to take them out between shows, so that way I don't have to worry about it. But I guess you know, when duty calls, quite literally. So happy to be here. I'll tell you, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. There's breaking news, and it's funny. I was listening to MLB Network on the way home tonight, and they're talking about Trevor Bauer being close to signing. So I kind of started off where his agent tweeted that down to two. Kind of ominous, right? But so anyway, Trevor Bauer signs with the Mets. As of 10 minutes ago, the details weren't ironed out yet, but that is obviously that is a huge sign for the Mets. It makes that rotation scary good, and it's quite an impactful move, right? But we'll get to that a little bit later. It's funny because we're at that time of year where these things are starting to unfold rather quickly. So, the last tonight we're going to talk about catchers. Okay, we're going to start getting down into fine detailing, like working out draft strategy, trying to understand where we still got plenty of time. April 1st is we have almost 2 months really to prepare for this. But it's never too early to start, evaluating these positions and where these guys lie in the pecking order, because, getting eyes on them, seeing them during the spring training, seeing, who's hitting the ball well, who's seeing the ball well, those sorts of things. It's a big deal. But before we do that, it's always nice to get a thought in our head about who we want to look at, who we want to scout, if you will, right? So we'll talk about some transitions. But first, I want to say, Chap's Fantasy Chat, Thursday nights at 8. Don't forget, we have a second show that I've added here in the last month. It's called The Other Angle with Chappie and RC. It's more of a variety type show. We are definitely going to be talking some Super Bowl tonight. We're definitely going to be talking some college hoops, and we might even squeeze a little bit baseball in there. It's a good time. RC does a great job. I really enjoy working with him, and I hope you guys will find the time to come back and check out what we have to say at 10 o'clock. Definitely, there's a lot going on in sports right now. I don't want to get into college basketball. We'll talk about it at 10. So let's talk about, again, it's that time of year where spring training was supposed to be 2 weeks away, less than 2 weeks away. It seems as though it might be moved back a little bit until then, which is not a bad thing. But there's been some of course, the Bauer key takes precedence, or the Bauer signing takes precedence. There's definitely that's kind of the domino, right? That's going to set off a lot of chain reaction, because that was the biggest money free agent out there. And now, these teams that maybe thought they might have had an outside chance of getting Trevor Bauer, all of a sudden, maybe the Dodgers are more apt to bring back Justin Turner. Maybe, some of the Braves are more apt to go and sign a James Paxton or a Jake Odorizzi. So some of these things, the pecking order is kind of getting solidified here. But again, there's been a couple, at least from a fantasy perspective, there's been a couple interesting signings this week. And I think, that's kind of this exercise, is just to make sure that these guys don't get past us. First off, I want to start out. We'll start at the beginning of the week and we'll work up this week. Wilson Ramos, $2 million contract signed with the Tigers. Certainly like that signing for him. He did not make my catching first tier, but he was the first guy out on this list. And, I'll tell you, there's certainly a lot of potential for him to do well in Detroit, especially makes a lot of sense with him and that young pitching staff kind of developing those guys. He certainly showed that he is a capable offensive and defensive catcher when he can stay healthy. So Ramos is a sneaky good sign. You've kind of seen me talk about these sneaky good signs throughout the course of the offseason. This is one of them. $2 million is a steal. An organization like the Tigers, he's going to get a ton of opportunity to play. That's a great sign. And, in all truth and honesty, the biggest part of that sign might be the fact that come All-Star break, when the when the Tigers aren't contending, they can then flip him for a couple prospects, which they're building. I've said all along that that's what the Pirates need to be doing. That's what the Cubs need to be doing. If you're not going to compete, go out and get some of these guys that might be wild cards, right? So there'll be some of that today. So Ramos is the first one. Eddie Rosario, I think that's a smart sign by the Indians. Again, it's another one of those situations where he gets to go and play pretty much every day. They have a need for playing time in the outfield, and they're not going to be very good. So best case scenario, Eddie Rosario goes to Cleveland and has a productive year, and they're able to flip him for some prospects. I think that's a sneaky good sign for the Indians. Didi Gregorius is a big sign for the Phillies. 2 years, $28 million. I think I mentioned last week, Gregorius is a good fit in a lot of different places. But for fantasy purposes, I can't think of a better place than Philadelphia for Didi Gregorius. He had a pretty good year last year, and I'll talk about him a little bit more in a little bit. But that was another one of those chips that needed to fall. Just because, everybody thought he might re-sign with the Phillies, but if he wanted to go, just again, the pecking order, right? So Carlos Rodon, the first overall pick a couple years back, had, I believe it's Tommy John surgery, re-signed with the White Sox. NC State product, his stuff, left-handed pitcher. I believe he's left-handed. Sorry, but his stuff has always been, pretty good. He's struggled a little bit with location sometimes, but really coming back from health is a big thing. You'd think signing with the White Sox, that is one of those scenarios where he is I'll use a basketball term, a first off the bench type guy, right? A sixth starter, a spot starter, if you will, in that rotation. But man, that's a good option to have, especially for a team like the White Sox who really are trying to go for it this year, right? So that chip fell. The Cubs actually made another. You see my hat. I'm everybody that knows me knows I'm a huge Cubs fan, but I'm kind of pissed off at them. Trying out different hats. But anyway, so Trevor Williams to the Cubs. That's a sneaky but good pick. Those of you that know me know I'm from the Pittsburgh area, and Trevor Williams has always been a really underrated chip in that rotation for the Pirates. He's never had outstanding numbers, but fact is that coaching staff has ruined a lot of pitchers a hell of a lot better than Trevor Williams. So, if they can kind of get him going in the right direction, showed last year with guys like Chatwood and the other. I'm spacing on his name. The other pitcher that they developed last year were able to kind of pull up out of nothing and develop. I feel like Trevor Williams is at a good spot going to Chicago. And, is still relatively young. He's one of those guys that worked with Trevor Bauer last year during the shutdown. So I feel like there's some potential there, right? Hanser Alberto, the Royals signed a minor league deal for Hanser Alberto. I feel like that's a sneaky good move, guys. Not much is expected of him, but the guy's been a pretty good player for Baltimore for the past 2, 3, 4 years. That's one of those situations where you could do a hell of a lot worse than Hanser Alberto. And of course, this kind of seems moot at this point. Again, it's a lot like Rodon. You're building your depth. Jordan Yamamoto to the Mets. This was earlier in the week, obviously, but it's still, I don't know, maybe bullpen help at this point. with the Power signing. But yeah, his numbers didn't look great. But we all remember when he came up 2 years ago, he had a couple pretty good starts and had a lot of potential. Was called up over guys like Zach Gallen and some of the other guys they've had there that have been really good. So that's an interesting sign by the Mets, and maybe they use him in the bullpen now. Of course, the big news of the week before today, which was Nolan Arenado going from the Rockies to the Cardinals. For one, as a Cubs fan, I'm kind of pissed off about this because I feel like they didn't give up nearly enough to get a bat like Arenado did, or like Arenado is. You're talking about one of the top 3 defensive third basemen in the game of this generation, and a bat who, albeit has had a down year ish. He's one of those guys though that I feel like will thrive in playing for a team that he knows is willing to go out and put money on the table to compete. I really like the Arenado trade for the Cardinals. Again, as a Cubs fan, you hate it, right? And then the kicker of all that, not only do they just give up, the guys they get back are not great. Austin Gomber is the only major league caliber player. That's nothing special. Mateo Gil, Montero, Losi, and Summers. If memory serves me, I think Montero was again the biggest prospect there. I might be wrong on that, but not none of their major prospects. So if you're a Cardinal fan, you're jumping up and down with joy because you definitely didn't have to come out of your prospect pool, and you got Colorado to agree to pay $50 million of this. That's a win for the Cardinals. And that leads me to my next question. Really, what happens with Trevor Story? Trevor Story is a big news. Who signs him? Who trades for him? You'd have to think. It's the Rockies are a lot like the Pirates were a couple years ago, where it's almost like they don't know what the hell they're doing when they're trading. And if I'm any major league team, I'm trying to go out and get Trevor Story right now. I'm trying to throw every bust prospect that I have at him. Anybody, if I'm Washington, I'm throwing Carter Kieboom at him. Any of these guys that, you get up there and you see him and you're like, not quite sure about that. I'm trying to get Trevor Story at this point because they're the mark, right? They're the team in the room that you can take advantage of. Now, the Pirates have moved on from that. I think Colorado's the new Pirates right now in concerns of, not really being able to adequately evaluate talent. That's clear by this trade, in this guy's opinion. We'll see. They might all turn out to be all-stars. I just don't see it happen. 2 more moves, and we'll start talking about catchers, guys. But I think it's important to do this exercise, right? It's important to do this exercise because a lot of times, the Super Bowls this week, you got a bunch of great college basketball, all kinds of other things on the mind. You miss these small signings, and it's important to know Sean Doolittle signs with the Reds. 2 years removed from an all-star performance. Guys, here's a little secret. His ADP at this point is 736. 736. You're talking about a closer on a major league team that will mark my words, that will definitely go up a lot. Sean Doolittle, that's a big sign. Yes, he had a 5.87 ERA in 2020. That's not good. But people forget. Before that, he had 29 saves in the 2 years before. In 2019, he had 29 saves. He had 54 saves over the previous 2 seasons and 75 over the previous 3. He has a career 3.04 ERA and 111 career saves. Doolittle to me seems to be in a really good position on a team that, let's face it, still's going to have some pretty good talent. Sure, they're going to sell some of that off. If someone gives a good offer on Sonny Gray, they're going to take it. If someone gives a good offer on Eugenio Flores, they're going to take it. But in the meantime, they still have those pieces. They still have Nick Senzel. They still have Joey Votto. They still have a lot of these guys that are going to be pretty formidable. Moustakas. And while that's happening, you have to think they're going to win some games just by default. So Doolittle might be set up as one of those sleeper closers that kind of come out of nowhere. I think that's a really good sneaky signing by the Reds. The last guy I want to talk about before we get into our catchers, I want to talk about Chris Archer. Chris Archer is one of those guys, signs back with Tampa Bay. To me, this is an ingenious move by the Rays. And it's getting to be where you would expect no less, right? They go out and they sell, I always want to say Ian sell Blake Snell to San Diego, get all these prospects back, Luis Patino being the headliner. So all of a sudden they're missing this senior leadership, if you will, right? This experienced veteran arm that can kind of be the stabilizer. Chris Archer's out there basically for peanuts. The Rays know him. Obviously, he pitched there for years. They go out and they sign him. So this guy had a virtual workout where he was just piping heat. I mean, his arm speed is back. He's completely healed. He's had some crappy luck over the last 3 years. He's regained his velocity. This could be a bedrock for the Rays. And, people don't realize, yes, he had some bad years at Pittsburgh. He had a couple bad years in Tampa before he was traded to Pittsburgh. He's still sporting a career 3.89 ERA over 8 Major League seasons. He's pitched in 145-plus innings in 5 of the 6 seasons he's pitched. And let's be honest, he probably picked up a couple bad habits in Pittsburgh, especially the first year where he had Ray Searage. D-Wayne and B-Lo, what's up? Thanks for coming by, guys. Appreciate y'all. If you guys haven't listened to D-Wayne and B-Lo show, it's pretty awesome. They're football guys. I don't know. They might be a whole lot more, but I've really enjoyed. Come back at 10, guys. I got some information on your show from Tuesday that, especially the Steeler information, that I want to talk to you guys about. So, but back to Chris Archer. I feel like there's a couple things going on here. I don't know that there's ever been a time in history when a blockbuster trade like that was made. So Chris Archer went to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh sent over Tyler Glasnow, Austin Meadows, and Shane Baz. I don't think there's ever been a time when a blockbuster trade has been made like that, and all of the players from that blockbuster trade end up playing on the same team. Now, I can think back to Aroldis Chapman for Gleyber Torres. You might call that. I don't necessarily. That's more like a uno for uno. You're going to have, by the All-Star break, you're going to have all of these players playing on the same team. Because Shane Baz is getting ready to take over and really, the losing the minor league season last year really hurt guys like Shane Baz. But fact of the matter is, Tampa Bay does a great job of developing their pitching talents, particularly. I really feel like Baz is going to be on a fast track early on in this season if he performs. He has to come out hot. But Baz is one of those guys, again, that, he might be used in a starter role. Maybe he's in an influencer role. He's going to find his way into that bullpen at some point this year. So you're talking about having Baz, Glasnow, Meadows, and now you got Archer back. I like Archer for that staff. I like it a lot. The other guy I want to talk about before I get into these catchers, and I think it's important, and again, it's overlooked largely, Colton Wong to the Brewers. Colton Wong's one of those guys. He's kind of an afterthought. But what Colton Wong does, he gets on base. He gets on base, and he's capable of stealing bases once he gets on base. I'll tell you guys, I'm absolutely drooling over the fact that Colton Wong is going to Milwaukee. I know that kind of sounds weird. One, you have this familiarity. He's played in St. Louis his entire career. He knows the pitchers. He knows the parks. He knows the routines. You don't have to worry about much of an adjustment as far as changing teams go. That's about as easy of a transition as you can get. Number two, the ballpark. You have to think that playing at Miller Park is going to help him hit more home runs, which, of course, is always what you want. The stolen bases are always going to be there. And then the offense. You're looking at an offense where they're going to score a boatload of runs. And whether he hits 1, 2, or 6, 7, it's not going to matter. I mean, I guess it will matter a little bit, probably is something you want to keep a little bit of an eye on because, if you're looking for runs and you are expecting him to hit 1, 2, you're going to be disappointed a little bit. Flip that around, same thing. But really, he's going to be an influencer in that lineup. And I think it's a really good opportunity for him to, kind of establish himself as more than just a one-trick pony. And I say that when I'm talking about his stolen bases, his on-base percentage. You're talking about a guy here who you could get an ADP 324 right now. If you're in a shallow league, Colton Wong is free. And, stolen bases are really hard to come by. And that's something that he has offered pretty consistently throughout his career. And then you throw in the fact that, maybe his 11 homers from 2019 turns into 20 in probably the second most hitter-friendly park in the majors at Miller Park. I'm going to throw another layer at you, though. Colton Wong kills the ball at Miller Park. Kills the ball at Miller Park. He has a 308 career batting average at Miller Park. 28 games. Again, they're division rivals. They play each other a lot. He's got 23 homers and a 373 on-base percentage at Miller. I'll give you some perspective. He's got 23 homers at Miller Park in his career. He's only hit 28 at Busch. 57 games at Miller Park, 432 at Busch Stadium. He likes playing there. Sometimes those things are deceptive. Right? Sometimes it has to do with maybe, if you hit well at PNC, maybe it's just the Pirates pitching's crappy, right? I don't think it's that. I like his fit in Milwaukee. Man, it's hard. Before we get to these guys, it's hard to get away from Trevor Bauer tonight, right? Um, I, rumors again as of before the show, and I get notifications on my phone, so I would have seen it. Details haven't been worked out, but there was talk of him getting $36 million a year, which is what Garrett Cole got last offseason, albeit on a shorter contract. It's interesting to me because when you start talking about that big of it, $36 million, even if it's over 2 or 3 years, I'll give you some perspective. Miami Marlins entire payroll is $55 million. Cleveland's entire payroll is $49 million. Garrett Cole made 36 last year. That's what Bauer wanted. I'm sure that's what he got. The Pirates entire payroll $40 million. You got one player making basically as much money as the entire Pirates payroll. How do you compete with that? You don't. You don't, right? So it's the haves and the have-nots in baseball. Now, there's even layers within the haves and the have-nots because clearly Tampa Bay's doing a better job of nickel and diamond than Pittsburgh is. Tampa Bay can nickel and dime all they want. They keep developing players and making good trades. They're going to compete. I feel like Pittsburgh's turned a corner. I know I talk about that quite a bit, but we got to wait and see. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of good talent. This is 20, 21 years old in Pittsburgh. We'll see in a couple years. Enough. Let's talk about it. Draft season. This is awesome. This is my favorite thing to do. This is such an overload this time of year because I love college basketball. March Madness is right around the corner. You got all these great conference tournaments. Hopefully COVID doesn't wreak havoc on those. But this next month, when you're talking about preparation for drafts, putting your list together, making a priority list of position players, that's my favorite thing to do. This is a weird year. You had a shrunk season last year, truncated season last year, 60 games. Alec Mills. That's how Chappie's mind works. Alec Mills is the other pitcher the Cubs developed last year. I knew it'd come to me. I just had to put him to the side. Catchers. Listen, I like doing this holistically. I like talking about, usually the way I do it is tier one, so starter backup. So the top 12, the second 12, right? I like going that direction. I think it and then you can kind of put tiers within that 12. I think that's a really good holistic way to look at it. Catching is a different animal just because there's different layers there, right? With catching, you kind of have to think of it as a moving target. There is not a position in fantasy sports that takes a bigger beating than the catching position does. It's really hard for catchers to have any longevity whatsoever just due to the fact that they take such a beating behind the plate. It's hard for them. The first thing that's going to fall off when their knees go, their ability to, move their hips. It goes south quick with catchers. So normally, as we go through this, talk about a bell curve with your age on players and how you want to target these guys. I usually say 23 to 31-ish is a good bell curve for a normal position player. For the catcher, I try and tone it down to 23 to 28 because, and even 23, I don't trust a young catcher. You have to prove it to me before I have confidence in drafting you at a position where, one, there's not a whole lot of talent. Two, the max talent at that position doesn't give you a whole lot of separation like it does at maybe say some of the other positions, right? If you go out and you get Fernando Tatis, you're going to be ahead of the game because you have a true five-star player. You don't really have that. So the best case scenario with catchers is JT Realmuto. He's basically a fourth-round pick. The ceiling with JT Realmuto, 25 homers? Are you spending a third or fourth round pick on maybe 25 home runs? I'm not. I just am not. So you have to evaluate catching a little bit differently than all the other positions just because of – plus, you throw into that, Realmuto's 29 years old, guys. That's getting there – that's getting up there. He's caught a lot of innings. He's been consistent. There's no doubt about that. Career batting average 273. He's got 95 career homers in 7 years. That's not great. Think about it. Do the math. 7 years, 95 homers, 13, 14 homers a year. That's not fourth round pick. No, I'm not doing that. He's stolen a few bases. He's got 44 career stolen bases. He had 4 last year. So I get a little bit of the appeal. He's playing a great offense, right? I'm just not willing to go to a mid-third, fourth-round pick on a guy that's going to give me a slash line. Average over a 7-year career, average over 162 games. 278, 21 homers, 84 runs, 79 RBIs. I'm not spending a third-round pick on that. That's too high. Do yourself a favor. Go draft a pitcher instead. My second case, listen, this isn't intended to go real deep, right? We're really early in this draft game. But what it is intended to do is start to set a precedence in pecking order with these guys. Because it's important. It's important to know that you like Will Smith over Willson Contreras, or over it's because then you can go into the spring training and kind of look, okay, am I right here? Right? Does my belief match what I'm seeing when I turn on whatever your source for getting highlights is? Will Smith's my number 2. Again, ADP 108. He's 25 years old, guys. Now, I'll tell you, those of you guys that know me know that I love prospects. I love young players. But catching's a little different. I want to see you do it a couple times before I start to trust you. And to me, you want to talk about the wild card of this, especially this first tier. It's Will Smith. 25 years old. His ADP is 106. So that's what, 7th or 8th round pick. Outstanding numbers. 2020, he had 289 with 8 homers, 23 runs, 25 RBIs. So this is how I'm going to do it. 2019 and 2020 together, right? Just kind of combine those stats. 253, 15 homers, 30 runs, 43 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. So that breaks down to an average per 162 games of 268, 23 homers, 53 runs, 67 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases. Again, just like with Realmuto, the difference between Realmuto and Smith, with Smith, you're grabbing potential. With Realmuto, you know what you're getting. Smith could well go out and hit 40 homers. He has it in his back. He has the potential to hit in the middle of that lineup. One of the best lineups, if not the best lineup of baseball. The problem that I have with it, I'm gonna age myself a little bit. First fantasy draft I ever had. Rich Wilkins coming off a 30-homer season for the Cubs. I think it was 1994. This guy's surefire. It smells like Rich Wilkins. I can't remember if it's Rick or Rich Wilkins, the catcher for the Cubs. It smells like that, where this guy's had a really good 91 games in the majors. He could come out and hit 212. Or he could hit 280 and hit 35 homers. There's just a really wide margin there. But at least with Smith, there's the potential for more. Whereas with Real Muto, it's kind of flatline. So it depends on what you want to do. Again, the 41 ADP versus the 100 and whatever it is, 103 is significant. 106, it's significant. But again, the ceiling for Smith, I feel like, is a lot lower. Keibert Ruiz is pretty highly touted prospect for the Dodgers. You never know who's knocking on the door and could potentially take playing time away as well. So there's just a couple question marks with Smith. And again, this is I do this the way I do this because I think it's important to kind of document ADP as we go. So as of February 1st, I got to note Wilson Contreras, number 3, ADP of 125. Contreras didn't have a great year last year, but you have to kind of feel like at 28 years old, you have to think this is catcher prime. This is catcher prime age. And, first career, he's a 265 hitter. Over 5 years, he's hit 74 homers. Not great, but what he has done is he's consistently hit in the middle of that lineup. He's athletic. He's playing for his next job, right? We all know that makes a difference. When you're up for promotion at work, you're going to go in earlier. You're going to stay later. You're going to do that extra report. Same type of thing here. I feel like Contreras knows he's auditioning. And that's a shame. As a Cubs fan, I love, Wilson Contreras is kind of one of the main reasons why I'm a Cubs fan. He's been fun to watch. Wherever he goes, I'll cheer for them. I'll tell you that right now. Again, last year's numbers weren't great. 243, 7 homers. Sure leaves a lot to be desired. I talked about this a couple weeks ago. There was a time when, it could still happen. The Angels, have Joe Maddon's there. Wanted to make they were talking about trading for him. When you start doing a number by number comparison with him and Max Stassi, it doesn't make a good bit of sense why they'd be trading for him. But let's be honest, I think we all really know what Contreras is capable of. Hopefully this year he kind of reverts back to. So his average per 162, 265, 24 homers, 75 runs, 83 RBIs, and 4 stolen bases per year. Compare that to Real Muto, who per 162, his average is 13 points higher. Contreras is actually hitting 3 more homers per game, scoring more runs and RBIs. So you're talking about side-by-side comparison over Realmuto with a 7-year career, Contreras with a 5-year career. You're talking about ADP of 41 for Realmuto and ADP of 125 for Contreras. And if you break down over the course of their career, those two's numbers, generally it bodes well for Wilson Contreras. That's what I'm talking about. That's the perfect example of what I'm talking about and how you have to break down this catcher position. You can't just simply say, screw it, it's a catcher position. You have to evaluate it. And if you do that, these kind of things start to show themselves. 28 years old to me is another really key factor with Contreras. And I know you guys are going to say, oh, you're a Cubs fan. You're a homer. That's not it. That's not it. I mean, that might be part of what's in. But again, to me, just facts, man. Just the data, right? The data speaks to, even with the crappy year he had last year, again, COVID does. I'm not judging anybody on facts from last year. That's why you see me kind of lumping the last 2 years together. You lump 2 years together for Wilson Contreras, 262, 31 homers, 94 runs, 90 RBIs, and 2 stolen bases. I'll take it. I'll take it right now. That's why I have him rated over Salvador Perez, over Travis d'Arnaud. I like those guys. Don't get me wrong. But for me, if you strip all of it away and you look at throughout the course of the career, Contreras to me is a value. At 125, you're talking about, what, a 10th round pick? That's a good deal for those numbers. If you're looking at the end of the year and you're comparing Real Muto and you're comparing Contreras, they're comparable. And you're talking about an 8-round difference. That's significant. Real significant. When you take that 3rd-round pick and you invest it in a Tyler Glasnow or someone of that caliber, you're making your team better. Just by making that move, just by having the proper analysis. That's it. That's it. That's all we're talking about. I'll move on. Salvador Perez. I love Salvador Perez. He had a great year last year. People forget, coming off of an injury, didn't play in 2019. People were wondering how effective he would be coming out of the gate. 333 with 11 homers, 22 runs, and 32 RBIs last year out of Salvador Perez. Now, you would think that the year off certainly helped his knees. I don't know if that goes into this year. ADP is 91. 30-something picks before Contreras. Part of me understands why. But the analysis just didn't add up. That's why I did the flip-flop. 2020, like I said, had a great year. 2019, he was injured. His average per 162, and this is a fun stat to play with, right? 269, 25 homers, 67 runs, and 89 RBIs. That's damn good statistics. But where I kind of start to question that is the age. 30 years old. Look, I'm not sitting here trying to tell you there haven't been clear outliers. There have been. Yadi Molina comes to mind, right? But these, and maybe the year off, I think he had a shoulder. I think he tore his shoulder. I don't remember. It might have helped his knees, I guess is my point. So maybe that added a little longevity for Perez. His bat's solid. His bat's absolutely solid. I worry about that 30-year-old age. That's just me. Travis d'Arnaud, number 5 in Atlanta. Another one of those guys. I like, had a great year last year. Has had a great last 2 years, really. 25 homers in the last 2 years. 71 runs and 103 RBIs. That's significant. That's more than Contreras. That's more than Smith. That's more than, obviously Perez. It's not more than Real Muto. 103 RBIs, though, is a lot. And, if you look back on his career, 253, 72 homers, 221 runs, 265 RBIs. He's in a hell of an offense in Atlanta. I really like his fit. He's kind of found his stick the last couple of years. We all remember him with the Mets struggling forever. It seems like over the last, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years, He's really kind of started to understand, have a more educated approach to the plate. I don't know if that's better coaching. I don't know if that's maturation. I don't really care. It is, the light switch has been turned on for me, for Travis d'Arnaud. That's why I put him in this first half of this first tier. 143 is his ADP, the lowest ADP of anybody on this first 5 catcher list. It's pretty damn good value, guys. Playing on a great team, right? Gonna have plenty of opportunity to influence. The only thing that scares me about that is, the Braves have not just one but 2 really good catching prospects. I worry about what happens if William Contreras starts out real hot, or Shea Langoliers all of a sudden turns the corner with his bats. I worry about that impacting his playing time. So that's my first tier. I'm going to move quickly through the second and third tier. We're going to go 12 deep, and then I'm going to just mention a couple other catchers. I got 14 minutes, so I'm going to start to get – there's some important names in here that we want to mention. First guy I want to talk about, Christian Vazquez, 30 years old, ADP of 164. He's my 6th overall catcher. I love his ADP. I love the fact that he is a career 259 hitter. Doesn't sound like a whole lot, but honestly, for a catcher, that's pretty damn good. He hit 283 in 2020 and 278 in 19 and 20, which shows me that he's been pretty consistent. 30 homers over the last year and a third, really, right? 88 runs, 95 RBIs. Hell, 8 stolen bases. He stole 4 bases last year. So for a catcher, that's pretty good. Again, the 164 ADP. He's going to be a bedrock around the middle of that Red Sox lineup. And quite honestly, guys, I got to tell you, I feel like Vazquez in general is pretty underrated. Grandal, number 7, 32 years old. The appeal for me with Yasmani Grandal is playing for the White Sox. That offense is one that should score plenty of runs this year. I worry about his age, quite honestly. He was great. What? Of course, I think about him with the Brewers, but of course, he played with the Dodgers, and I can't remember if there's another team or not. But just he's been a really good receiver, really good pitch framer. And, has always brought a good offense to the game. So, again, at 127, coming off of a 230 season where he had 8 homers, I have a hard time buying into that. I feel like that's a little high. I feel like I'll let a lazy man who doesn't want to research take Yasmani Grandal. That's why I have him at 7th. I value him. I feel like he's a good catcher. I feel like he'll rebound. I just feel like it's a risk. A risk I will take in the right scenario is Gary Sanchez. 28 years old. I've always, people that know me, I've always kind of been a Sanchez guy. But here's the facts, guys. Yes, he got benched during the playoffs. Yeah, he made a big deal out of it. He had a shitty year. He hit 147 last year. But he had to bring that average up from 117 to get to 147. That's not good. Here's what I do know. Before I get into my analysis, I do want to do this because 2019, 2020, he hit 208, 44 homers, 81 runs, 101 RBIs. Here's where Gary Sanchez starts to come into play, guys. His average per 162. And I like this because it starts to kind of weed out a lot of the white noise, right? His average per 162, 236 average. Not great. 44 homers, 94 runs, 110 RBIs. That's You're not going to find another catcher on the board that's going to do that. Not those kind of numbers. So let's talk about Gary Sanchez real quick. But I feel like if you're talking catching, you have to bring this up. It's vital because again, at 171, you have to start putting some background behind it, right? So let's look at his career. The 2 times in his career where he's played 100 games. 100 games. There's 162 games in the season, generally speaking. The 2 times in his career where he's played 100 games, he's hit 33 and 34 homers. Yes, he got off his trajectory last year. Yes, he was embarrassed by being benched in the playoffs. But it's funny in researching this a little bit. If you go and listen to the Yankee brass, they tell a completely different story. Aaron Boone says he didn't bench Sanchez because he didn't think about it. He didn't say, well, I can't play Sanchez. I can never. I'm not going to be mean. I can never remember the other catcher's name. The Japanese catcher. I can never remember his name. So he was just playing better. Okay? As a matter of fact, Boone said he was planning to start Sanchez in game 1 of the LCS that they made it. So that tells you his mindset on Sanchez hasn't changed. Quote from Aaron Boone, I'm really excited about where Sanchez is at right now. His offseason and his preparation heading into camp has been excellent. He's in Tampa now, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do for us this year. I feel like he's in a really good frame of mind, and he's ready to enter camp. Cashman. I'm not going to judge him on last year. We've had a lot of conversations with Gary, and I do know the talent he possesses, and I know that he cares. He played winter ball in the Dominican to get his swing back, and again, he's been down at the spring training complex for a while now. I paused for effect, but I think it's important to take note. Gary Sanchez is just 28 years old. His knees are relatively healthy, and his ADP is 171. Throw a dart. He's worth it. I got to move quick because I got to eat, and I'm coming back at 10. Join me at 10. The Other Angle, Chappie and RC. Great show. We're going to talk a lot of Super Bowl stuff. We're going to talk some college basketball. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball. So, a lot of good stuff coming up at 10. We start moving through these catches pretty quickly. I do like Sean Murphy, 26 years old. You got to like him in that offense. He was a pretty highly regarded prospect for the A's for a while. You have to think he's at the point where he's comfortable behind the plate there. And another good offense with relatively low pressure on him. I like Murphy this year at ADP of 180. Austin Nola, late bloomer, 31 years old, career 273 average. Career 273 average, 17 homers. Again, he's only played 2 years at the major league level. But his average per 162 is 271, 22, 78, 75 RBIs. In San Diego, you got to love him there. And, there's a lot of potential for him to continue that. We'll see how that goes. Wrapping it up, just a few guys. Again, we're trying to evaluate these guys. We're trying to build our draft. We'll come back to this. I won't spend a whole other show on catching, but I do think it's important. Dalton Varsho, 24 years old. He's got a little bit of speed. Another one of those guys that's a pretty high prospect. 197. Pedro Severino, another kind of late bloomer. Now with Washington, he started out with Baltimore. Has put up some pretty good years. Has showed some decent power. His ADP is 282. And then there's some afterthoughts. Wilson Ramos, again, I mentioned earlier. Certainly showed flashes of potential. James McCann, Mitch Garver, Yadier Molina is still hanging around there. Carson Kelly, some rookies to watch out for. Otley Rushman, Sam Huff, William Contreras, Keibert Ruiz. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed the content. Come back at 10. We're gonna talk. We're gonna go every bit of an hour and a half this week or tonight because there's just so much to talk about. Appreciate you all coming by. Chap's Fantasy Chat Thursday nights at 10. Draft for Upsides, the site. It's draft season, baby. Gotta love it. Let's get these drafts rolling. Got a couple drafts going on. One starting tomorrow with my boy Lou Landers and crew. It's a dynasty draft, so it's a little bit less exciting, but it's a fun time of year, guys. So enjoy your hoops, enjoy the football game Sunday. Come back and join us at 10. Get yourself ready, man. Draft season's on us. Chaps Fantasy Chat. Peace.